basically that's about it. Today we'll be talking about something that I've been learning about. I like to share my learnings, so I hope that my learnings or what I'll be talking about today is something that we can all learn from. Basically, that's basically it. Can I go on, Asas?
Yes, please. Thank you so much. Sorry, before you go on, I wanted to just mention for people who may not be familiar with the sessions, right? There's a time to ask questions, and it's going to be after the session. So if you have questions, you can type them in the chat or save them for later at the end of the session. We have like a slot for the questions, so you can keep them up until that time. Keep your mics, your cameras off at all times so that we don't affect the quality of the recording. Thank you. Yeah, Alison, please go on. Thank you.
Yeah, hi again. Today we'll be talking about designing for mass adoption in Web3, and just so that we don't waste any more time, I'll be giving a brief introduction. So if you are unfamiliar with Web3, basically the term was first adopted by Ethereum co-founder Gavin Wood. And for him and many others, Web3 is just considered the next step in the evolution of the internet. The current version that we use now, the current iteration of the internet that we use is known as Web 2. Basically, Web 2 was like a major upgrade from Web 1. But the issue is that data and content are still centralized. So what I mean is big companies like big tech companies like Google, Facebook, all the social media companies, basically have an outright monopoly of our web space, and they basically dictate the rules. So in terms of finance, the central banks in different countries, they have access to, every credit, every debit, and the banks basically control our money, even though that they tell us otherwise. They basically have control over everything that we do with finances. So in comparison, Web3 is just about decentralization, utilizing blockchain technology and storing information in multiple locations with no single point of control. So in Web3, users can retain full ownership over their personal data. And thanks to blockchain, Web3 users will be able to communicate with each other directly without any need for intermediary corporations or top-down censorship. So compared to Web 2, we are basically moving from company-owned internet platforms to community-owned internet platforms. Web 3 is and will take different forms like centralized social networks, play-to-earn video games, NFT platforms, centralized finance, etc. etc. This is why people are really excited about it, because it's just basically changing the way that things currently work. And as the more innovations, for lack of words, that people come up with using the blockchain, the more need there will be for UX designers. And it's very important that designers know what role they play in the end goal, which is mass adoption. So now let's explain why Web3 products, don't have mass adoption yet. So in most cases, builders, the goal for builders is just to create something cool and new because everybody else is doing it. In most cases, not every case. And that's not essentially a bad thing. Actually, it's a very good starting point. But the issue is there will come a time when you need to move from something cool to something impactful. Because the more impact, the more significant the impact, the more people that you reach, and then ultimately the end goal, mass adoption. So the users of Web3 products today are dominated by tech savvy, blockchain knowledgeable, Gen Z and millennials basically, and let's just call them Web3 savvy. So we are the early adopters. But the future of Web3 users, the future users of Web3 products are they're not going to need to be educated. I mean, they're not necessarily Web3 savvy. So you need to there needs to be a way, because we now are being we're all looking at YouTube videos, having people talk to us about this stuff. But the users in the future will need to be educated a lot more, because they don't really understand how these things work. And terms like NFTs, DAOs, DeFi, all of that might be scaring off these new users, basically. So think about senior citizens or older people who are not really have trust issues and are not really used to the way that these things work. You're probably going to scare them off with all those technologies and all of that. So if you want mass adoption for these applications, it just means that we need to lower barriers of entry for people that don't have technical knowledge or understanding of the blockchain and the terminologies, to enter the space. So being able to provide customers with something more than a working product is the first step towards the mass adoption of any technology. It's not enough that your product works. Are people comfortable enough to use it? Are they comfortable enough to do everything that you design that product to do? So I'll also be talking about what designers need to prioritize when you're designing for Web3. And the first thing is to design with the user in mind. So the concept of designing for the end user has somewhat always been lost in Web3's construction. Instead, these platforms are really built by developers. They're really built with a developer mindset. It's all in an early stage, and they're not really focusing on user experience because they're focusing more on experimenting with technical aspect of it and seeing what works and how it works and how much impact it can, make. But then, because developers have laid the foundation, it's now designers' turn to really make Web3 accessible and usable to everyone. This starts with understanding who a given user is and what kind of Web2 products they actively use, including social media or banking applications. And designers now need to figure out how those experiences can be translated into their own Web3 products so that it feels very familiar. So the North Star to always keep in mind as a designer is that you're designing for human experiences, you're enhancing user experience, making that human happy, satisfied, delighted. That's the end goal here, and everything else is just a distraction. The North Star to always keep in mind as a designer is that you're designing for human experience, basically. And this can be achieved by choosing, colors, typography, interfaces that mimic what works in Web2. For example, instead of asking users to connect their crypto wallet to sign in, which can be a foreign concept to newcomers, you might want to, so just a minute. Yeah, sorry, instead of asking users to connect their wallets, to connect to their crypto wallet to sign in, which is like new to some people, you might want to provide options that users can choose from what they are really used to, something like signing with your wallet and a copy that kind of explains what a wallet is at that instant. For new users, they might not really understand what they're expected to do at that time. So this practice already enhances the user experience because onboarding is a very crucial part of Web3. And onboarding will decide whether a user will continue using the product or not. So it's important that you enhance that aspect of the experience. Since Web3 is like relatively new and there's a lot of uncertainty and unknown, that's even why it's like more important to like fix your onboarding and all of that. So the next thing that we're talking about basically is that you need to prioritize a designer is designing for trust. And that brings us another important consideration. Trust is actually a core principle for Web3 designers because of the very nature of the space, you're designing for something that's considered risky and uncertain, and for a lot of people, like very unknown. People like me that have trust issues, I need to know that putting my money with you is safe. I need to feel some kind of security or safety when I'm on your platform. And I think products should be clear about the security measures taken and how transactions are made. This is achieved almost entirely by promoting transparency from the very beginning, guiding users along their journey in a given Web3 product with step-by-step instructions, reminders, alerts when they're making a transaction or decisions that are irreversible, basically, that cannot be undone. So almost everyone is new to blockchain. People have varying levels of understanding and confidence. So users need to be able to perceive that your product and people that are behind the product, that is you and your team, they perceive that you're reliable, you're trustworthy, and you're stable, basically. So the next thing that you need to prioritize as a designer when you're designing for a Web3 product is you need to be able to educate through your design. So Web3 can be very complicated topic, acronyms that are very confusing. DeFi, GameFi, Gas, Mint, DAO, everything. And just all the other lingo is, if a user doesn't understand what it means, they'll just be really overwhelmed and just ditch their efforts altogether. So Web3 platforms try to force users into, like, for lack of words, a cult of a community and force you to speak their language, which is not really good for people that don't know anything about Web3. It basically goes against the principle of designing for inclusivity. So instead, I feel like designers should use like simple, easy to understand language when you're creating copy. That's as reduce the acronyms as often as possible. And when you're using acronyms, you might want to pair them with helper text that defines what exactly the given acronym means. excuse me, and how it applies to what the user is trying to do. So you have to consider the language and the needs of not only the people that are into Web3, but also the ones that are newbies, like really don't have any idea. I mean, as blockchain becomes more mainstream, education will be needed less because people are like really now used to the whole thing. So you won't really need to educate as much. But right now, companies need to concentrate on teaching people at this point. They need to like really focus on the efforts in this space. And as the user experiences the app, education should be weaved into like their whole experience in Node.js so that they're not really overwhelmed, and instead it feels more like a tour guide than the whole lot that you're really seeing all at once. So yeah, that's pretty much about it. The next thing we're talking about now is design principles for Web3. Can you guys confirm that you still hear me, please? Because I need to know that you guys are still following.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, design principles for Web3. The first one that I'll be talking about is what I call hook focus. This is very important to me because it was drawn out of a book that I read that we'll talk about in the next slide. But basically, the thing is that GameFi and play to earn, they've gotten a lot of attention recently, and this is because, and there's been like a lot of investment in this space. So games are always going to be a good area to be in because humans, we love games, we love competition as human beings. But there's a whole lot that we can learn from gaming that applies to the building of product, and that's gamification. The reason people come back to play games like Minecraft, GTA, Mario Kart is that they are really these games are like engaging, they're competitive, they're unpredictable. They just pause up to kind of adrenaline in humans that just makes you want to keep coming back and all of that. And these are more attributes that can gamify any experience, basically. So this book that I was talking about is called Hooked, and it's by Eyo. So basically, Hooked is like a Bible when it comes to creating engaging products in tech. The hook model is just a clear path to bring people back to your product. How do you get users to voluntarily come back after taking an action or after completing a transaction or whatever? So the hook model is a 4-phase process that businesses can use to create products or services that are used habitually by customers. So you don't even have to like force them or anything. They just love you so much, they just keep coming back. So how do you do this? The goal is just to result in voluntary high frequency engagement, and at its core, the hook model is about creating a customer habit. So when I finished reading this book, I was going to make a summary and share, but then I found somebody else's summary that I felt like just does the job. So I will share the link to that summary after this presentation, basically. The next principle that I like to share, so how this works is when I explain a principle, we will talk about an actual experience, like an actual live project that is doing this thing basically, and how this product has been able to inculcate this principle, and how this principle is just helping them get increased user retention and all of that. The next one I'm talking about is reducing the amount of technical jargon. There's just a whole new lingo that's floating around when it comes to blockchain. Websites that simplify languages for the average person to digest will always be miles ahead because you're just first choice. If you had to make a choice, if you had fintech applications, if you had fintech options, and there was just this one that just kept you in, like, just seemed like it was designed just for you, you would always go back to that one. The reason why Piggyvest and Carrywise stand out of other saving and investment platforms, because they just seem so personalized and they just seem like something that you just constantly go back to without having to be compelled or anything like that. So, like, think of DeFi apps, especially, DeFi apps that have words like liquidity pools, mining, tokens, protocols, smart contracts. I mean, if you're not in the world of blockchain, you might as well be, I don't know, really confused because you don't know what they're talking about. Using technical language really makes it hard for users to understand the value of your DApp or whatever product it is that you're trying to sell. Because where you can't really break down these terms, it's because, it's not every terminology that you can simplify, for lack of words. So in cases where you really can't simplify them, like, this is what it is, it's called centralized finance. there's no other way to say it. It's important that you kind of like add the help icon or include the glossary at the end of your maybe footer area, so users can always go there to look at these words and just look up what they mean. But a help icon is actually really advisable, so that they can refer back to, you can click on this help icon and see details of what this word means, or go to your glossary and just look up what that term means and all of that. So I mean, some dApps have different target audiences. For example, maybe you're designing specifically for developers. It's okay to use those terms there because developers know what you're talking about. But in a case where you're designing, your product is just aimed at like the general masses, like where your target audience is like everybody, educated, not educated, newbies, pros, everybody's. It's really advisable that you keep your language accessible, especially on the homepage, because that's like the first impression of you. So if at that point you're getting users all confused, they are really less likely to move forward from there because they don't understand what you're doing. Typical example is the homepage that the YDX had at that February of this year. I mean, they have redesigned it now. Probably they talked about this thing we're talking about now, and they had it redesigned. But this is what it looked like at the time. So imagine as a newbie coming here, I'm already confused by this dashboard I'm seeing on the right. I don't have an idea what the lines mean. I don't understand what ETH and USD mean. All of these graphs are just so confusing. And then when I'm supposed to refer to the text to read what this product is about, I'm seeing perpetual decentralized. It's just confused. Like I'm lost. I don't know what he's talking about. And then the subtext is just not even making things simpler. So it's not at this point I don't know what else to do. At this point I don't understand what you're offering, so I don't understand what value you're offering and how I can benefit from this. So I will probably need to have to join your community so I can ask you personally, or ask a friend of mine who knows to explain to me. And that really can help us get to mass adoption, because you're really going to, at this point, your drop-off rate is going to be like really massive, because you just left users so confused and all of that. But then look at their About Us page. I mean, this should have been on the landing page because the lingua is just so simplified. It's easy to understand, and it's the terms are like really basic. So at this point, I can understand what value it is you're offering and if I can actually benefit from this. At this point, they did have the homepage redesigned. So if you go there now, you will see a different thing, but this is what he had as at February this year. So I feel like the design just came from this conversation we are having now about how users need to be able to understand what you're offering and all of that. So the next principle we'll be talking about is showing enough information without overwhelming your users. So as the user experiences your application, education should be weaved into like the whole experience in nuggets, so that they're not overwhelmed, but instead if you feel like a tour guide, like I mentioned earlier. And as they learn more about blockchain, progressively increase their exposure to blockchain mechanisms. It's basically I think it's called frog in boiling water illustration. You know how you put the basically says that you put the frog in a cold water and start to heat it gradually, then dip the frog inside like boiling water. It's easy for the frog to adapt to water as the temperature increases than for it to you just putting it in hot water just like that, like just at once. I mean, I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Just give it to them gradually so that you take it up in bits instead of like putting it all on them at once. Other ways of not overwhelming can include, segregating into two levels for basic users and for more advanced users. And I think a product that did this very well was Binance. So when Binance came out, I mean, I don't know if when it came out, but when I found Binance, I found at a point where I had no idea what blockchain was. I was just trying to receive cryptocurrency, and I installed the app and I signed up and everything, and I was just lost. But then they had this academy at the time, so it required me to go and read or go and watch the videos, and I didn't really have that kind of time at that time, so I had to use somebody's address instead. So imagine other users like me that would have just gone there and just seen so many things and nobody to guide them through it, and then I'm being referred to YouTube to go and watch and come back. I mean, no, I'd rather not. So I think they figured that out, and they now created a light version. So there's a light version of Binance where they just bring out like priority features, for lack of words. Just newbies just want to receive and send cryptocurrency, so they just brought out those two features. I think staking is also there, and then created a light version. So if you go to your um if you go to your menu, for lack of word, profile, the profile at the top left, you're able to switch from Binance Lite to Binance Pro, for lack of word, and then you just see you see how the Binance Lite has this simplified UI compared to the one that is there by default. So yeah, I mean, many other DeFi dApps also have noob and advanced settings for users to toggle between. Another one, I think SushiSwap has that as well. But another example of communicating value is the DM's website. Yeah, this is it. So DM was formerly called Libra, by the way, in case you're not familiar with it. But this provides users with 3 levels of knowledge through their cards. Yeah, so the first level is just showing the headings that you can see, and the second level is an illustration, but when you hover on it, you see like the long subtext, for lack of words. And then the third level is like a call to action for them to read more, that take them to another page with like more details. So imagine them having to put all the details for all of these topics in one page, just a whole lot. But the way that they divided it into smaller bits, so that if you're trying to read up more on economics and the reserve, you go to one place and you read it all up there. And then you want to read more about blockchain, you go to one place and read it all up there. So it's not giving all to you at once. You just basically see like previews of everything in a way that you're not overwhelmed. You know, it's easy to understand. They're giving it to you in bits, basically. And we're still showing you all the details. It's just that you're not giving you all at once, so it's easy to take in all of that. Yeah, that's it. The next principle is communicating using value, basically the show not tell, the classic show not tell. I mean, I believe it's not advisable for you to go too deep into the roots of how the technicalities of blockchain work. You know, instead, communicate the value that it's going to bring. You know, for example, don't talk about how amazing layer 2 is on your homepage. Instead, emphasize on faster transactions and lower fees. You know, I think a product that does this well is Audios, because they basically communicate the value of free streaming service in a way that it just feels like a normal website, even though it's still Web3 related. It just feels like a regular website, like Spotify or something, and it's really easy to learn about, for lack of words. The next thing we'll be talking about is educating your users on the consequences of the action that they take and preventing possible errors. This one is personal for me because, yeah, I'll talk about that really soon. But a core example of this is account recovery. Basically, as users are familiarizing themselves with this space, you know, you need to catch them before they fall or make a very irreversible mistake by alerting them to the implications of risky moves. You need to show users, display what step they are on in the overall flow, so that they're able to navigate back and just know how close they are to finishing the task. Because of the centralization of platforms in Web2, yeah, a lot of us are really familiar with recovering lost passwords and accounts. You know, if you log out of your piggyvest, you can recover your password. You log out of your Rise, you can recover your password. It's really easy, yeah. But in Web3, you're kind of dead if you lose your security keys. So you need to like emphasize this to users multiple times. Like, I don't think there's anything like too many times when it comes to warnings. Like, warn them, as especially new users that are onboarding, give them warnings in every form, shape, color, whatever. You just keep warning them when they are onboarding with you. Because let me just give the example. Let's give, when I started crypto, I think the first thing I did, okay, no, not the first, but like the second thing I did was I was claiming this Vite airdrop. I think it was 5AD. I don't know if anybody claimed Vite on this call. Did anybody here claim Vite? So like 2019, 2018-ish. You can unmute your mic and speak if you did, or just type on the comment if you did claim Vite. Yeah, oh my God. Yes, we claimed Vite that year. I think I had over 1,000 Vite at one time, and then they stopped. I think they closed that period, something like that. But basically I had that right stored, and then for some reason I saved my seed phrase on the SMS of the phone I was using at the time. So I sent it as a message to myself, to my number. And then I had to change devices. I don't know if it was stolen or I had to just change it, but I changed devices. And I did not install the right app on the new phone I got. So that's the summary of this just shows that I didn't even know. That's the thing, I didn't know that that secret was that important. I mean, if you lose your Instagram password, you get another one. Like, I don't know that you had to get that thing with your life. And then when Vite got listed, yeah, I went to Amek. I'm like, hell, thank God that it's listed. Finally, we can collect our money. Please, how do I recover my seed phrase? And it's like, you can't. I'm like, are you joking? Like, there's no way. I mean, I still have that email. I still have that phone number. Like, there's no way I can get that those 12 words. And it's like, no, your money's gone. Yeah, that's how I mean, that was airdrop that I was claiming. But imagine somebody actually put their money into a product like that, and then because they didn't remember to save their secrets or something, the money has now gone. That's like hypertension. So you designers, please just want them as maintained as possible. Just want, I don't know how you're gonna do it. Just want them, because it's not a very pleasant experience to have, to be very honest. Yeah, that's just it. I feel like one product that does this very well is I think it's the MEW wallet. That's what it looks like. Sorry. And this is what it looks like. They just keep telling you the consequences of what you are doing. They just keep warning you one way or the other. And when you take a screenshot that can easily be stolen from you, they also tell you that, taking a screenshot to don't basically share, just giving you warnings and just telling you that you've done this thing, but this is what can happen if this happens, and just emphasizing on the importance of saving that secrets and all of that. Yeah, it's very important that you warn your users on the consequences of their actions so that you prevent as many errors as possible. The next one I'll be talking about is transparency of transactions, and this is basically divided into three. So the first one is showing the breakdown of transactions. If as a user, I'm trying to send $50 to somebody, at the end of the day, I'm being charged 50.72. I need to know where that 72 came from. I mean, if you don't show me, it's just going to be like, this guy just stole 72 cents from me and all of that. But you need to show them that, oh, this amount is related to gas fees or transaction network fees, whatever. Or because you decide to go with a fast option, we're charging you this amount. Because you decide to send it to another one, we're charging this amount. Whatever it is that you're charging your users, you need to break it down for them to see how you're charging them, basically. So it's important that you show them where their money is going to and all of that. The next thing is showing the value in fiat currency. This just seems so personalized, but as a newbie, I don't really have business with dollar. You get, if I bought BTC from you, I need to know. Nigerians, especially Nigerians, are really seeing hell with the whole dollar naira thing that's going up and down. So as a newbie, not to be concerned dollar, because I'm earning in naira and I put my naira there, so I need to know how my assets are doing in my local currency. I mean, I should have the ability to change. I think Binance has that if I want to, but I want to know that you're thinking about me as a Nigerian that lives in Lagos, and this is just for me. So I need to know that if I'm sending this amount to somebody, I can see what the charge is like in my local currency, because that's how I earn. So yeah, you need to be able to show your users that in their fiat currency, especially for like older people, that just come into this space and all of that. The next thing will be, I think I shared this in the first one, but visibility of gas fees and the implications. So if this has to go in under 5 minutes, you're going to spend this amount. Also, this should also be showing their local currencies as well, because they need to be able to really relate to it. I don't have to be thinking about the current exchange rates and how to convert $0.72 to my current naira. So I can know how much I'm paying you on gas, like in naira for the gas fees and all of that. So yeah, that's pretty much about it. Yeah, this actually brings us to the end. And I just want to say that there's still a lot yet to be discussed when it comes to user experience problems for the blockchain itself. But these issues really, back-end based, security and performance issues, just to name a few, which also kind of affects that experience in the long run. So many innovative companies are trying to solve them right now, because poor UX can be a deterrent for many people entering this space. So I feel like the next step for Web3 should be, I think for the next step, designers have to be like at the forefront. I had a conversation with somebody today, and he was talking about how developers are, like at the forefront of this product. So for most of these projects, the CEOs and CTOs are developers, so they are just there to write codes and make the thing work. They don't really involve designers from the inception. It's just when they've pushed and they've seen that, oh, this thing actually works for user, but want to get more people on board, they now hire a UX designer to do this. Most of them. But basically, I feel like the designer should be more involved in the process from the very beginning, so that most of these issues will be avoided and all of that. Yeah, so this brings me to the end. I hope that you've been able to learn one or two from my little presentation. Thank you guys for joining. If you have any questions, we can take them now.
All right. Thank you so much, Alison. If you have any questions, please leave your questions in the chat, so you can raise your hands and then you can just ask your question directly. Okay. So while we do that, I'm going to just send like links to our social media in the chat. You can, if you aren't already, just follow our social media handles and also our YouTube, because we upload our sessions on YouTube. Yeah, so please ask questions or ask questions. Yeah, GP. Okay, go on. Annette has a question. Please go on, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, my question is
Hi,
very
Annette.
long.
What's up?
Good evening. Um, so honestly, I only got to learn about Web3 like 2 months ago, and honestly, it has been confusing. So could you like explain some key things about Web3? Like I know you talked about how to make the user experience better, but when I hear things like DeFi, DAOs, I get confused, honestly speaking. So, could you explain a little more about Web3?
Okay, so your question is actually a lot, and I feel like I have the perfect resource for you. I found something this morning, but now I don't know where it is. But it's like this 6-week boot camp where
Okay.
they teach you the basics in like a very detailed way. I just need to find. Let me check my browser history. I'll give it to you in a minute. But I didn't see it before until I started
Okay.
looking for something and I found it. It's like this boot camp. I think they have one that started in by the end of July, that's ending end of September. So okay. Yeah, so I mean that will really answer all these questions and more. They'll give you like everything in detail, and like I mentioned, not so much that you're overwhelmed. They're just teaching you like little by little until you have knowledge of everything basically. So just give me a minute to find that. But I'm sure you really something that you really like to look at.
Thank you.
All right, so we have Aditayo. Tayo's hands are up. Yeah, please go on. Ask your question.
Good evening. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You're not very clearly, though, but I can hear you.
Or I'm sorry for that. I'm not connected to my mic, so my voice might be a little bit unclear. So if you actually miss any of the things I said, just let me know. So my question is this, Alison. If someone or an entrepreneur with a solution on Web2
Mhm.
is actually trying to like move over to the Web3 platform, what advice would you give such an entrepreneur?
What advice would I give somebody that's trying to migrate from Web 2 to Web 3?
Yeah, exactly.
I think you need a developer. You need a blockchain developer to help you with that, because you can't really do without them anyways. But I feel like you need to have a conversation with a blockchain developer. That's basically all that's coming to mind right now. If anybody else has a better answer for this question, please unmute your mic and speak freely. But I believe that you need a blockchain developer to move forward.
Yeah, I get the development aspects though, but then talking about the product aspects, thinking like design thinking and the rest of it, it's like would you advise would you have a kind of specific advice like give that person like talking about other aspects aside the development area?
Okay, hold on. Stanley, is what you want to say related to this question? If it is, please unmute and speak. Okay. Yeah, to be honest, sorry, Tyler, can you ask the question again? Just say it one more time.
All right, let's put it in this pattern though. Say for instance, Jumia or Boats or some, let's just say one of these Web2 platforms that we use on a daily basis or weekly basis. Let's say for instance, Boats. So they are trying to like implement some Web3 features on their platform, like they are trying to like navigate from the Web2 to the Web3 platform. So yeah, basically they're gonna be needing to like build the back end, which is
Mm-hmm.
where they're needing a developer. But
Mm-hmm.
then do you have a specific advice for such entrepreneur, like the maybe the owner of that platform going forward, like the product team? Exactly. Okay, let me just say the product team at that firm. Like would you have a specific advice for them? Okay, this is what you should be doing, like having your users at mind, stuff like that.
Okay, so the goal is to make sure that your design is your product is user centric, and if you're migrating from a particular market, you need to make sure that you're not changing the entire working process. If that makes sense. So there has to be some kind of familiarity. So if Juma decides to go Web3 today, I need to know that I need to still feel like I'm buying stuff on Juma, even though it now works differently. Let me set my password. I'll need to now use a seed phrase, something of the sort, or some connect my wallet basically. But I still need to feel like I'm still buying stuff from Jumia. It shouldn't have to be different. I should still feel in the same space. Familiarity, basically. I feel like that is something you should still keep in mind. As much as you're trying to like improve your tech, you still consider that users should still feel like it's still still give them the sense of security and safety, even though you're updating. Also, let them know that your upgrade is in their favor. So let them know that, oh, we move from this to this because we feel like this to do this for you and to do that for you. So yeah, just let them still feel safe, let them still feel like you are still the one they are talking to. Also let them know that you had them in mind when you made this upgrade. It's not like you're doing it to reduce cost or reduce cost implications or anything like that. You're doing it for them, and this is what your upgrade can do for them as well. So they can also, another thing that even improves, um user base, for lack of words, is referrals. So I think that even works better. If somebody tells me that they use RiseVest and they're getting 8%, on their savings every day, I'm more likely to go there than when RiseVest puts an advert on YouTube, because this guy told me this and this is my guy. I'm going to do it because somebody said it. So one person tells another person to another person, another person, and then you just have like more users coming. So just keep your users in mind, basically. That's the summary.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Stanley, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, yeah. I actually wanted to add to that. Actually, yeah. Good evening, everyone. So, I did, who asked that question? I think that's Aditayo Adebanjo, right?
Hi, Stanley. Your
It's not
mic
the
is
bad job, please. It's the bad job.
Okay, sorry, sorry. I'm not actually good with everybody. Aditayo Adebanjo. Okay, yeah. Just to add to what Alison had said. Actually, I'm still a newbie in Web3, so that's it. If you are trying to design for, or you're trying to change your Web2 product into a Web3 product, you have to start aiming at solving user experiences which people are faced with in the Web3 space. There are lots of them, and Alison has actually mentioned a few of them. More like you have to build trust, you have to reduce technical jargons, you have to solve for newbie mode to that's to increase in mass adoption and all that. And also you have to let them take control, give them the control, let them be aware of everything that's going on. And you have, this time around, let them know you are building for decentralization because that's the major aim and the major reason for the whole blockchain and Web3 technology. So I think that's what I wanted to add. And yeah, there's that.
Thank you, Stanley.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Also.
Yeah, Stanley, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're
So
welcome.
basically I believe what you guys are talking about right now is that okay, the movement from Web 2 to Web 3 from the user side, there should be a kind of like onboarding, like a new kind of onboarding to like put the users to like, okay, this is what is happening, this is that. Am I right?
Basically, yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
all right. Any other questions? If you have questions, please you can raise your hands and then you'll be allowed to ask your question. Uh, God's power. Do you still have your question, or are you clear on that? You had asked about Web3, about yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I have a question. I actually have a question for Alison.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, Alison, it's the let's say the topic for this meeting was actually designing for mass adoption. So, are there
Mm-hmm.
any strategies or any in- any tips you can give for designing the in the normal Web2 space, there's something we call the next billion users. That's those who are
Mm-hmm.
still yet to be introduced to the tech space and to the web themselves. So, what strategies do you apply for newbies? Like strategy will make them feel at home or would give them this welcoming feel into the Web3. What strategies would you advise? Maybe there's kind of a checklist or a roadmap which designers who are designing for Web3 can follow.
That's interesting. Let me show you something that I had here. Sorry. Yeah, if you look at this graph, for lack of words, on the lower right, bottom right, you see that we are the early adopters. We're the ones that are catching up on YouTube, having these sessions back to back every weekend. And then when we get here is where Web2 refers to as the next 1 billion users, I believe. But these people here are not going to be going to YouTube. I mean, they are less tech savvy, so there has to be a way to simplify process for them. And I believe that the UX principles in Web 2 still really relate, still really relevant in Web 3. Just simplify it in a way that I don't have a checklist, but I believe that your checklist for Web 2 will still work. What you just need to consider is that as much as simplifying technical jargons goes, there's only so many jargons you can simplify. Something like DAO is still DAO. You cannot do anything about DAO. DAO is DAO. You cannot simplify DAO more than that. You just need to make sure that your subtext or the storytelling, for lack of words, is just simplify the whole thing. Like, I mean, there are technical jargons that you really can't simplify, yes, but you might want to have tooltips, info icons that are like, oh, this is what this means here and there. But the whole idea is just to make sure that you're designing for a user and not just the technology. So try to relate it to humans as much as possible. It's going to be very difficult. I read somewhere that Web3 is going to have the most difficult time with user experience than every other technology, and I really believe it because people, especially anything virtual, it's people have trust issues. It took me a lot of time and talking to really like think about this thing and just put myself back in this thing, because after what happened to me in 2018, I kind of swear I was going to do it again. Anything that I cannot see my money in my hand, I'm not doing. You get, so people need to trust you. It will take a while. I mean, think about it. All this POS. There was a time in Lagos that if there's something that you transfer to them, they're like, who do you want to scam? Like, transfer to who? Money in my hand, or you're not buying from me, that kind of thing. But now people even prefer that you transfer. So it will take time, but it's very possible. It will just take time and a lot of efforts from designers to simplify it as easy as possible. And I kind of like what Binance has done with the light version. It's really simplified. It's something that I struggle with personally when I started using it. And just seeing that they simplify the process for newbies and also have like a platform for the pros that are doing like trading full time and all of that. That's really like interesting to see. So you might want to like incorporate that idea, scheme, whatever, to your own product. If you feel like there's just this part of it that cannot really be simplified, that's fine. Get a like simpler version for your newbie users, or have some kind of tour guide, you for new users, you can show them around. This is your menu where you do this. This is here, this button where you do this. This is why you're doing it. We're doing it because of you. And just, talk to them like I'm talking to people. Like once they feel this companionship, for lack of words, it's easy to, I don't know how to say it. Yeah, they just need to feel like you are caring about them as a person. You're not doing anything generic. You're personalizing the experience for them. I think that's something that can help us, achieve that. It's a lot easier. It's still going to be a lot more difficult, but I mean, there'll be some kind of ease if you do that. Incorporate like a basic design, UX design principles to Web3 as well.
Okay. Thank you for that. I think that's answered. Sorry, I'm taking everyone's time, but I think I have one more
Oh, go
question.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. The second question I have is, you know, the peculiarities in Web3 and the potentials in Web3 are still many are still yet to be untapped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, many are still yet to reach the peak, and we are still going to see many more opportunities in DeFi. So, is there any advice you have for UX designers who are transitioning to Web3 to on how to fast track their learning process so they can help build amazing products? Like most times when new technologies or new opportunities comes out, there are little people who
In
can
it.
design for them, and that gives gives users bad experience. Do you have any advice or anything you can say for newbies or new designers like us to
Okay.
help fast track our learning process or
Okay.
anything? Is there any way you
So as far as fast tracking goes, I really don't know if I can say much about that. But what I know that worked for me and still works for me is the way to design something properly is by designing that thing. And for Web3 products, the way to understand how a certain product works is by using it. I think you did it now. Just challenge. I'm sure you tested a lot of products when you were designing, especially the 4, 5, 6, up until the 11, even when you were doing the case study and all. So you know that you had to test a couple of existing products and just see how these things work. Then you cannot bypass that process. You need to see how people are doing it currently to be able to improve the UX on what you're designing for. So how to understand existing products is by using the product. Just test it. Go to their YouTube, see they have any um launch video or pre-launch video, whatever. Just try to understand how what they do is working and why they are doing it. So if for example, which one was that? There was this sports betting app. I think it was the six. Do you remember what's called? That one, I actually hadn't seen anything like that before, and I was really amazed. I mean, if that thing exists, that people now doing the normal bet Nigeria and losing their money. If you can't bet and Yeah, lottery pool, thank you. And if you can bet, and if you don't win, you get your money back. Why are people still doing sporty bets and where their money is gone if they lose? You get, so I haven't seen anything like that when I started designing for Dudes Challenge. But then just seeing that this product exists, and the only way to know how they work is to use them. You cannot, there's no other way. I mean, I don't think there's any other way to understand how a thing works if you don't use it. So if you use existing products, you'll be able to find flaws, be able to propose, UX solutions, probably have it redesigned with a better user experience, but you have to use it to know how it works. For the ones that will come in the future, I don't know if you can fast track the knowledge of that space, because the only thing I know that works for learning how Web3 products are is to use it. So another one comes, yeah, we'll still test it and use it and see how it works, and just highlight or identify what parts don't work well, what parts have UX issues, what parts have user friction on them, and all of that. So the best for me, this is like personal experience. What works for me is just to test the product. It has required funding my wallet and losing money at some point, but I now know how it works. I've had to fund my wallet a couple of times just to see how a certain this thing works. I think the first thing I had to do Web3 related probably last year so was staking, and it was a contract, and this guy was telling me this thing, and I'm like, it's not possible. Like, how will you stake one coin and then get another coin? It's like planting apple and getting mango. It doesn't work. Like, how will you stake one coin and then they will give you the equivalent? Like, at that point I was like, no, it's not possible. He's like, no, it is. Like, oh, check this. And I was saying like, oh, this is true. Oh, this is so cool. You get, if I did not test the product, I would still be telling that it's not possible. But then there's so many possibilities with Web3. I'm even really excited about the impact that Web3 will have on the healthcare. I'm really looking forward to that. I hope that somebody has this mad idea. Web3 plus healthcare is going to be like really massive. But if it comes out, we'll just test it and use it and see how it works and do our own, basically. But I don't think there's any way to bypass that testing part of it. I hope
Okay,
that
Alison. Yeah,
answers.
it answers us. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any more questions? If you have any questions, you can still ask. We have 2 minutes to go. Again, in the chats, I sent a link. Please leave us some feedback on this session, I beg, and let us know what we are doing well and what could be better. And if you're not following us on social media, you can do that as well. We also have a Telegram resources channel where we just share like resources that we find interesting and links to events like this. So if you want to stay super updated, you can do that here. Okay, so Alison, thank you so much for this session. It was a lot, and it wasn't complex. It was just like, what, again, I'm really looking forward to doing more in this space, and I really appreciate your time. And thank you so much for the effort you put into this.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so do you have any closing words?
Closing words. Well, I just want to say shout out to Ice if he's here, because Ice has been like, in fact, not just me. There are many guys here that Ice has helped one way or the other. So shout out to you, Ice. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for the support that you give. You don't have to do it, but you do it anyways. So that's just what I would say. Thanks. Thank you, Ice. Yeah, I say for president, thank you very much. Like, I really wouldn't have even probably been able to make it here if I said didn't help me. So thank you again. And I really look forward to many more designs in this space. I'm not actively designing for Web3 at the moment. I have a full-time job with a fintech application, but with a fintech company. But I'm really looking forward to many more innovations. So exciting to see. And the Juice Challenge really like opened my eye to a lot more of them that I did not even know existed. So I'm just looking forward to the many other amazing things that come up from this technology. And yeah, basically, thank you guys for having me. That's all.
All right, so you can sell your market too. What's your Twitter handle so that people can follow you?
Yeah, I'm Alison Eyo. I'm Alison Eyo everywhere. LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. It's Alison Eyo.
Okay, so that's at ALISONEYO.
Yes.
Okay, let me just get the link, direct link. All right, I just sent that direct link in the chat. That's Alison's Twitter. And please, you should also follow our YouTube if you aren't. Like, that's where we post all the sessions too. You will find like a whole lot of other sessions that we have done in the past there. So thank you so much, everyone. As you're welcome.
Thank you.